Thank you, and it's a real pleasure to be here. My name's John Studarus. I'm with Martincoit Networks. So Martincoit Networks, we actually started more than 20 years ago as a risk management business. We help companies identify risk across software, cybersecurity, operational, financial risk. Through the years, we've identified a number of common risks across companies, and a year or two ago, I ran into SCION. We were looking for a solution for a manufacturing company that was looking to secure their networks that were connecting between all their factories and their suppliers, and got to know SCION a little bit more, dove into it, and really identified SCION as a solution that could solve a lot of the problems that we've been seeing across our customers through the years. And so I made it a business decision. We would shift a little bit, and we would focus in on how we could use SCION, how we could create products and solutions on top of SCION to help our customers. So since then, we've been involved quite a bit with the SCION Association. We've also been involved with Carnegie Mellon University on some SCION Association projects that through the program there. So far, 14 students in the last year who've been involved using SCION under our sponsorship. And then also the James Irvin Foundation. This is through a grant from the US federal government to develop skills in cyber warriors. So we've been busy educating them and bringing up their expertise in SCION so they can keep on going within the states, bringing SCION forward. Okay, so a little bit about our path towards SCION. So through the years, working through, looking at companies and their security issues, some common themes that we've seen that SCION addresses for us is a lot of network security tools solve layer 7 security at layer 3, provide a layer 7 solution to solve network security. When you're working in manufacturing and you're working with industrial control systems, when you have zero trust systems that work at an application layer, they really don't solve the problem for you. They don't work when you're trying to do things at layer 7. So when you're trying to do zero trust and you're trying to get things into manufacturing networks, these solutions don't work. So quite a few of them are SaaS-based offerings. You don't want SaaS-based offerings coming into your network, so they just don't make sense. A lot of businesses come back and they say, well, we run an air-gap network. We don't need segmentation because we're fully segmented already. Well, the truth of the matter is, we see this all the time. People take their USB drives and they go and they plug them into this air-gap network, and then the air-gap network doesn't have security tools in place for the security teams to see what's happening in place because it's air-gapped. So we don't see air-gapped as being the way forward. We really see smart segmentation is the way forward, and SCION provides that for us. And then we also see quite a few issues with global supply chains. So you've got manufacturing networks, you've got suppliers connecting in those networks, those private networks. There's just as much malware, there's just as much bad stuff happening across those networks. They're single points of failure, they're run by a single provider. So we see a lot of these problems happen over and over again, and all of these we see that SCION can provide. With the students, one of the teams of students that are working on their master's project has taken a open source blockchain implementation, turned it in, made it SCION native, so it runs atop of SCION natively, and then they're running red team cyber attacks on it to go through and really quantify what is the capabilities, what is the protective capabilities that SCION provides, and to really be able to identify, and we want to be able to share that with you on what the benefits are from a cyber risk of running an application in a native mode on top of SCION. And then we have another team that's building smart contracts. These are forward contracts to be able to hedge, for telcos to be able to hedge the pricing of their links that they're providing. And the idea is that these smart contracts, then they're having them interface in with the SCION network to be able to enable the links. So we're seeing that as a great way to reduce financial risk by using SCION through smart contracts. Okay, so case studies. So as I started taking a look at SCION, I started doing some outreach to various businesses, and one of them that I talked about 6 or 7 different IXPs. So IXPs are internet peering providers. These are the ones for the traditional internet where traffic is exchanged. Through the years, they've been losing business to private networking as companies move their traffic off of the public internet and onto private MPLS networks. And that's traffic they're losing, that's business they're losing, that's revenue they're losing because they don't have a product to compete against those private networks. with SCION, this gives them a private network offering that they can run across a public network. So they get that segmentation. They can explain it to their customers and show the customers that you get the benefits of a private network, but you're running it across a public network. You can pick multiple transit providers to run across, and you run it across the IXP. So the IXP sees that business, they grow, they can bring that business back. So they see a great business value in that. Another component that they see business value in is SCION makes it easy to adopt multiple network providers. So companies that historically might only be using one upstream network provider will now buy 2, 3, 4 multiple network providers, and they're going to need the services of IXPs because they're going to need to have that connectivity to those multiple network providers. So all in all, this is bringing new customers, this is growing their business, they're seeing great value to this, or they see great value to this, and it comes at a low technical cost. They're running a layer 2 network. They're changing their business charters where they're saying that it's no longer required to be a BGP, to do BGP peering. You can do whatever peering you want. The London IX, they changed their charter about 4 months ago, removed that BGP requirement, so that's allowing SCION to come in. And so for the London IX to start offering SCION capabilities to anyone that comes in, you no longer need a BGP AS number. Okay, compliance risk. So a lot of companies are scared about compliance. Data sovereignty, we've heard that come up multiple times. The data needs to stay within a region. Well, SCION can provide that because SCION provides that visibility and control of where data is going. If you have a breach, in the States, you have to disclose if data leaves. But if you have that visibility knowing and you have that control of knowing whether or not the data really left or not, you might not actually have to disclose that, that breach. Contractual service level. If you're a vendor, you want to be able to show that you've met those contractual service level requirements. If you're a consumer, you want to be able to show the compliance department that your vendor has met those. So that compliance component is provided by SCION. You get that visibility, how well your vendors are doing, how well their network performance is going. And vendor management. So through the years, I see a lot of businesses where they bring in multiple network lines. They bring in VPN lines. They bring all sorts of lines in to their network. And it's difficult to keep track of which vendor is using what network line. If you consolidate it together, you bring them all in at that network layer. They're all using, combined together, multiple SCION transit providers. And then you provide that segmentation on top. It becomes a lot easier when that yearly change of a vendor, you can go through and you can remove that one vendor because you're now doing it at that AS layer as opposed to the individual circuit layer. Okay, manufacturing. I spent quite a few years manufacturing critical infrastructure. We're seeing these global supply chains. We're seeing these global supply networks where we're interconnecting all of these factories worldwide. We're connecting suppliers worldwide to the devices on the manufacturing floor. And these are run by typically an MPLS network, typically being provided by one network provider. You have an outage there, you've got crazy global addressing issues because a supplier is dealing with 5 different factories, so that means that they have 5 different MPLS lines coming in. They have to go through NAT because they got different IP addressing requirements from each of their manufacturers. It becomes a nightmare. So the path forward, someone said, hey, what are these, how many domains do we need? Well, with SCION, my vision is that we have them for the trade association. So the Automobile Manufacturing Association has an ISD, and all the manufacturing suppliers and factories are part of that one. So if you're a manufacturing supplier, that gives you access to that network, that ISD in general, and then you pick which one of those individual factories that you're actually working with. So I see that as a great way of going in and building the network out. Network resilience, we see outages in the States where people come in and they cut the copper wire, and then they start a bonfire, start melting in the copper. Unfortunately, they start the bonfire, and then the police go find them pretty easily. But we need that network resilience. Like I said, individual projects, individual groups within the factory are bringing in their own vendors, their own links. It becomes very difficult. We got groups that are trying to bring in cellular networks, because they need connectivity outwards because they can't trust their existing network providers. So we need that better network resilience that SCION provides. Partner risk, we talked this a little bit. You got these partners connecting into various networks. Partner gets breached. I get a phone call in the 4 o'clock in the morning. Hey, the supplier of ours got breached. We're worried about them connecting in through the network. What network links are they using? Right? If you're using a whole bunch of different links, It's going to be a nightmare at 4 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out who they are. I see a nod over there. But if you got in SCION, they're coming in, right, and they're all in their individual ASs, you can start going through and you can say, okay, company X got breached, let's go ahead and pull their access at that AS layer. And network performance, artificial intelligence, machine learning, we're seeing all of that coming out. Requires a resilient network. Okay, so where are we going? Market growth, we talked about that. New opportunities, new products, growing markets. Technically competent. SCION is an open source solution. It's solving it at the right layer. It reduces technical complexity. You don't need BGP engineers. Risk reducing, we've talked about that. Financial, operational, cyber compliance risk. And looking forward, it's really the platform of the future. It's going to be that platform where we can write these solutions that are going to be SCION native on top of it all. Thanks.